welcome back to
Bunso Bites.
I'm your host, Ami43.
And I'm your co-host, Chiggy.
I'm back!
She's back!
I was only gone for a week, but the reason why I was gone was I went out of town this past weekend, and it was a lot of fun. Got to see some very dear friends of ours, and I also got to teach kids in a different area, and it was really, really sweet. It was genuinely really, really sweet. A very positive experience. And I made new friends. Shout out to my new friends. Hello.
I did. You haven't met me yet.
No, some of them know you, some of them don't. But yeah, it was genuinely a lot of fun. I didn't go very far. I went about 4 hours south in North Carolina, and like I said, we have friends down there, and I went to go teach some kids. And then after, it was really funny because I spent the weekend there, but the first day I kind of was just doing my own thing and just kind of exploring the city. And then the second day we were all hanging out. And literally on the second day, we did all the things that you and I do, which is go to card shops and go, we just did all the things. And it was very, very nerdy and very, very fun. I had a lot of fun. Thank you to all of my friends down there and all my new friends. Thank you so much for being so kind. You didn't have to be so nice to me, but it was genuinely a really nice and positive experience. So hopefully I can go back, and we can go back actually, because they need to meet you, but we should go back soon to visit.
Yes.
That was my update. I'm sorry. I kind of just jumped into it. What about you? How was your week been?
For me, I had to deal with a broken washer that sometimes wouldn't dry, but definitely would not spin.
Yeah.
So at the end of the cycle, instead of your clothes being just, a little damp, it was soaked and filled with water.
Right. The water wasn't draining either.
I went ahead and replaced the washer and dryer.
Woot.
Cleared out the dryer vent because it was years of just clogged up lint in that vent.
Which is not good. Fire safety. If you haven't gotten your vents cleaned, get them cleaned.
And then started to do a load of laundry. Got through one load, and then the dryer just wanted to take a vacation. And now I have a dryer that doesn't want to dry clothes.
Yeah.
So trying to work through that, but it is what it is. And yeah, hopefully it's still covered under warranty, so they'll help me fix that and either get me a new one or repair it so that it does work.
Yeah, and that's what I was about to say. It's like literally this was the first time, so it might just be, unfortunate, but it might just be a defect. So you kind of just roll with the punches, and I know that you and I both are trying to figure out how to get that taken care of.
Yeah.
Because not having laundry is pretty bad.
Not having clothes. Not having laundry would be nice, but not having clothes.
Yeah.
Some clean clothes and clean brips, you know what I'm saying?
No, I don't. I don't need to know. But yes, so you did a lot of adulting, and I did a lot of socializing. And I will say, like, I was genuinely surprised at how I didn't. It's been a while since I've made new friends in a sense, and I was surprised and pleased at the fact that I didn't full on panic, which is great. We love growth. So, but I also feel like because they were friends with people that we're already friends with, that helped. There was a bridge to that gap, and so I didn't feel so stranded, so to speak. So yeah, lots of things happening. Lots of things happened and lots to come. But has nothing to do with the episode, because Chiggy actually brought this idea up to me, and it's really, really interesting. So Chiggy, what are we talking about on this podcast episode today?
So for today's episode, I got this idea from an episode I watched off of Abba and Preach, and they were talking about a recent case here in Virginia, where a homeowner got woken up in the middle of the night. There were teenagers at his doorstep, and they were doing the quote-unquote ding-dong ditch challenge.
Oh, I see.
And I'll get into it later, but what happened was the homeowner shot through the door, hitting I think 2 of the 3 teenagers. And, it was just an unfortunate pattern of events.
Right.
And so what I want to talk about is, what is a prank? Because what they did is not a prank.
Yeah.
Okay. Ding dong ditch in the original sense is you either knock or you ding dong the doorbell and you leave.
You run. Yeah.
And, you're supposed to like hide or,
like you hide behind the tree in their front yard type of thing.
Right. And they open up the door and there's no one there and you're just like confused.
Right.
And that's supposed to be the prank.
I was about to say that's a type of prank that I remember. I never did it as a kid, but I remember hearing about it, other kids doing it, within my age group type of thing. So, but what's the difference between that and the Ding Dong Ditch Challenge?
Right. So, I was talking about this with Mikey last week.
Oh, okay.
After the episode that we had shot, and he told me, oh yeah, this new TikTok trend, the Ding Dong Ditch Challenge, originated in like college dorms.
Okay.
And so, you're in a hallway of, a bunch of rooms, and they're like steel doors or whatever.
Okay.
And instead of knocking on the door, they turn around and then they mule kick the door. And so they just like banging on the door with their foot, almost like they're just trying to break the door
down almost. Yeah.
But because in dorms they don't really have like doorbells or wooden doors,
right?
And so they have these thick steel doors, and so it makes a lot of noise when you bang on it.
Sure. Yes.
And if you just look it up on TikTok, you'll see a couple on there, but it's nothing of the sense of Ding Dong Ditch, because one, they're not knocking anymore, they're literally destroying property in that sense.
That sounds so much more violent too.
Yeah. And especially in the case that was here in Virginia.
Okay.
These 3 teenagers, and they were in high school.
Okay.
They, they didn't just go to this one homeowner's door and just started banging.
Okay.
They were doing it in the neighborhood.
Oh.
And it was a neighborhood that they weren't familiar with. And so
I see. They kind of just drove into a random neighborhood, random suburb.
Right. And, some other homeowners did witness like the teenagers doing it to, a couple of different houses. And in this one instance, they came up to this house. They did a Ding Dong Ditch Challenge.
Yeah.
Started kicking the door.
Yeah.
And in this case, it's a wooden door. And so you can actually break that wooden frame on that door.
Oh, yeah. Someone has broken our door because they slammed into it on accident. It's a wooden door. They're not, don't get me wrong, they're sturdy, but they're not steel doors by any means. Yeah. They're not those metal school doors.
Right. And so the time frame of this happening was also like 2-3 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, that's horrible.
Right. And so, that's no longer a prank. That's, almost breaking and entering.
Yeah.
Because who does that in the middle of the night?
Right.
Trying to prank somebody while, like the neighborhood is asleep.
Yeah.
And so, a lot of people, they're saying like, oh, if I was a homeowner, I'd do the same thing because, I have that feeling of, oh, I'm hearing this loud banging at the door. I think someone's going to break in.
Yes. Yeah.
And so this homeowner thought, he was in that state of danger.
Yes. Yeah.
He feared for his life, and he took a firearm
Fight or flight.
and he shot through the door.
That's crazy.
And he struck 2 of the 3 teenagers. One didn't make it, one survived, and the other one got away scot-free. Yes.
Wow.
And so the homeowner is now in jail, and he is.
They claim that it was his fault?
Well, we don't know.
Okay.
That's why he's
sorry.
He still has a trial.
Okay.
For murder. Oh yeah, he passed away.
Both 2 or
just
one?
Just
one passed away. One was injured. One ran away.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the third one just got away scot-free.
Gotcha.
And so the homeowner is now in jail, and he's awaiting his trial. and he's being accused of murder.
Wow.
So, a lot of people they're on the fence of, was this homeowner right in doing so? Was he justified in shooting through the door and
right.
defending himself?
Mhm.
And I see both sides of the.
I see both sides, yeah.
So there's a bunch of people that are just on the fence of, was the homeowner justified in shooting and defending his house, or the other half is, were the kids right in doing this, or
were boys being boys.
right?
Yeah.
But I see both sides, and I really don't know what the jury would find the homeowner.
Do you happen to know what state this was in?
It's here in Virginia.
Oh, it is in Virginia. I'm sorry, you did mention that.
Yeah.
And I don't. This goes back to, we've talked about this before with like legal stuff and laws. We are not lawyers. We are not in the legal field at all. However, in the United States, people do have the right to bear arms. That is a right that we have. If I'm not mistaken, in the state of Virginia, like you have to have it licensed, and I guess a license to own one. Like like you've taken a safety course or whatever it is, a training course, and you have to register like what firearms you have. I'm going to I don't know the details, and maybe you do, you don't. I'm going to err on the side that we will assume that the homeowner in this instance legally has the right and has it all sorted out in that sense, where his firearm is whatever. And the way that I look at it also, just from what you're talking about, I'm like, okay, yes, I'm not happy at the fact that someone has passed away. That's a horrible accident. That's a horrible thing to happen. However, this is the homeowner in his home, personal property.
Right.
Which, particularly, I know in the state of Virginia is a very, very, like, well-defined thing. So, if he owns this property and this is his house, whatever it is, home, he has the right to defend that with, again, we're just assuming that he has all of his paperwork and all that stuff in order. He has the right to bear arms, and he did. Now, is it horrifically unfortunate that someone passed away? Absolutely. I will never take that away from the, and especially someone so young. Like, I would never take that away from the parents or whatever. But it's also like, okay, I kind of like the analogy that you were saying. If you hear any kind of noise at night, 3 o'clock in the morning, I mean, yeah, like I remember, like, if you read or listen to like murder mysteries or whatever, like you always hear and then I heard the glass break of the window, or I heard the door, opening. Well, yeah, at 3 o'clock in the morning, if you hear someone trying to break into your door, or like someone's like slamming on your door trying to get into the house, I myself would probably feel the same way that the homeowner did. However, do I have a gun and would I do what he did? No, because that's just not how I roll. We have security cameras, and like that's how we roll. But I wonder if he had security cameras. I wonder if that would have made a difference.
I don't think the homeowner
Yeah.
Owned any security cameras.
Yeah.
Because then it would just be a simple open and shut case.
Yeah, or like he could have checked his phone.
Right, but I believe the cops are trying to salvage security cameras from
Like
their
the neighbor's
neighbors.
house.
Right.
I see.
Well,
and also if there's proof that, because you were saying that the kids were hitting up all across the neighborhood, so like if there's proof that they were doing it at the other neighbor's house. I mean, clearly, well, actually, no, based on this story, everyone knows that the kids were doing something that probably wasn't right. That not even probably wasn't right. That's not a right thing to do. Prank or not, trying to damage someone's property, particularly in a time of day that it feels even more unsafe. I mean, burglaries or whatever could happen at any point of the day, but at the same time, it's kind of one of those things that you're just like, all the more at night. Like, you feel most vulnerable, I suppose. I wouldn't be surprised if those kids have been, like, suspended from school, or, like they would have definitely gotten in trouble. So, like, we know that what they did was not right. But I'm also curious to see how the case develops in the case of in the sense for the homeowner, like what that means for him.
Right. All right. I mean, legally, I see the legal standpoint, and I see like the ethical standpoint.
Right.
Like what me and Mikey were talking about last week. The
Mm-hmm.
ethical standpoint was, yeah, I'm gonna stand and defend my house.
Mm-hmm.
And was he right in doing that? Mikey thought he was right. I don't think he was right.
Yeah.
And so, what I want to hear, like in this case, is did he have the right to shoot through the door? Because one, even though they were banging on the door,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they ever breached the door.
Yeah.
And so, if you're standing there on the other side of the door, you're hearing the loud banging.
Right.
Did you not try to de-escalate?
Right.
Did you not try to yell through the door like, "Hey, stop what you're doing," or ask any type of questions?
Right.
I didn't read or hear about the full story,
Mm-hmm.
and so I'm just going on assumptions and scenarios.
Sure.
And so, if there was no type of de-escalation,
Yes.
then 100%.
You shouldn't have jumped to shoot.
He's going to be charged for murder.
Yeah.
And he's going to be sentenced.
Yeah.
But if there was de-escalation and, the kids didn't stop what they were doing,
Mm-hmm.
and, I don't know if like he could hear the wood creaking and like the door was going to come down or anything, but if that was the case, then yeah, he would be justified. But that's what I want to know. I want to know the full details and what the jury would think of that.
Sure.
But yeah, my heart goes out to the homeowner, because I'd probably fear for my life too.
Absolutely.
But just seeing it from a different point of view, especially when it's not you
Mm-hmm.
in that scenario, you can see different sides of it.
Oh yeah, it's not as black and white as if you and I were actually in that moment,
Mm-hmm.
right? And as you were talking, I had another thought, and I don't know how it is here in Virginia. I do recall in Florida, the law is you can only kind of like reactively defend yourself. So in a sense of, for a fact that your life is in danger. Let's say they're busting on the door, but your door hasn't breached and nothing is actually affecting you, just hear someone at the
Mm-hmm.
door. Then in Florida, you can't shoot through the door and defend yourself. The door would have to breach, and like there's like a robber, or there's someone there like with a knife or a gun ready to attack you. And in good knowledge or in good faith, you're like, okay, I'm defending for my life now. I can shoot. I'm pretty sure. I mean, it could have changed. I don't know, but that's what it was, at least when I lived down in Florida. And I don't know if that's the same here, but that's the thought that I have, because I agree with you, where it's like, since we don't necessarily know the details, if the homeowner jumped the gun and just kind of was like bang bang,
Mm-hmm.
that's on the homeowner. Again, we don't know, because it is gray area, and I know that like if you and I were in that situation, we would be freaking. Anyone would in their right mind would be freaking out. So but I kind of want to just say, like, for the sake of the exercise, let's say that he did try to de-escalate. He did try to call through the door like, hey, stop it or whatever, and they still kind of were going at it. I mean, I think there's definitely a cause for debate, a cause for conversation, and it would definitely put the trial in a different kind of light, because I feel like it's one of those things of just like, at what point do you feel that your safety is compromised?
Mm-hmm.
Versus, and I don't know that would it have been any different if like the homeowner was like he was a father and his kids were in the house,
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, there's so many factors, or there's so many other things that's like that could completely change the narrative. He could be protecting his, and even then, I'm still kind of siding on the fact that he's standing in his front, in front of his front door, and he knows that someone is kind of barging in or kind of whatever. I understand the need, I can feel that fight or flight. Like, I sympathize with that. Does that help the situation? No, but it's also one of those things that's just like, yeah, I like what you said earlier, where it's like it's ethical versus what's lawfully correct,
Mm-hmm. And like legally, the legal standpoint, like I don't think it's going to look good for the homeowner.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's going to favor in the family of the kid that lost his life.
Yeah.
But Mikey was also saying last week, they could try to make a case out of the intent of what the teenagers were doing.
Sure.
Because they could go off the neighbor's testimony that they saw the teenagers doing it to several houses. I mean, whether their intent was to actually break in or just prank them and run off.
Yeah.
But the thing that doesn't make sense in my mind is, why would you ding dong ditch challenge or ding dong ditch but continue to kick the door to the point that the homeowner is already there and he's
yeah,
he's already got his firearm there and he shot through the door, and that's when they start to run away.
Yeah.
So I don't know what's going on through these kids' minds. There's a lot of different pranksters on YouTube, and kids, people in general these days are just so brazen to just pull a prank on a random stranger that you don't know.
Right.
And that doesn't make any sense in my mind. Does it get views? Does it get likes? Sure, but at what cost?
Yeah. No.
That's the thing that it doesn't make sense in my mind, because it's like you have a heavy con side and you have a very light pro side.
Yeah.
So it's like it doesn't match. It doesn't outweigh each other.
But I will, and I'm this is not me in defense for those people. I know exactly what you're talking about, and I despise them just as much as you do. But what it is that's how sickened that person's mind is, that despite knowing how devastating the cons are, to them the pros are so much more fulfilling, because that's how much views mean to them. That's how much being viral means to them. That's how much internet fame means to them. Yes, can all those things lead to luxuries and money and what? Sure, yes, 100%. It's clearly, there's plenty of content creators who make more money than you and I will ever see in our lifetimes, and that's fine. But it's again, it's that they're so blinded by needing to get the next biggest, best, craziest, most most like clickbaity video clip, whatever it is. And I mean, some of these things have gotten like insanely serious, like bomb threats serious, and bringing in feds serious. Like, it's ridiculous. I do not like how prank culture has evolved on, and I'm specifically speaking on YouTube, because that's kind of where I'm most familiar with seeing it on the internet. I'm sure it's on TikTok. I'm just not as familiar with TikTok content in general.
Right.
But although you were mentioning the college dorm one, well, as you were talking about it, I did remember one. It wasn't like they were banging on the door, but they like knocked on the doors, and there was like 10 of them, and then they all ran down the hall where the stairs was. And then when everyone poked their heads out the door when they opened it, there was just this random band kid playing his saxophone. Like, and I'm like, that's kind of funny. Like, is it great to have that happen to you at 5 o'clock in the morning? Absolutely not. But is it kind of funny that like the band kids like played a really funny little joke of like, oh, I woke up at 5 a.m. to play the saxophone. Hee hee ha ha. And I bring that up because I want to go back to like what I think, or not even what I think, but like how I perceive pranks. And this is something we had discussed before the episode. What I see as a prank is, this is from like old school 90s, early 2000s videos. And by videos, I mean like these were genuinely like videos on Facebook. I don't even think they were YouTube videos, but this is like old school videos of like people just sharing stuff. Okay. And these kind of pranks were the kind of pranks where it's just silly. Like, it's really, really, like, they're like gag worthy or whatever. And it would be like this person who's like walking in the park, and then like a bunch of people will come up behind them, like kind of like slow running, and then all of a sudden, and like, so the person is like bewildered, like, oh, there's like a bunch of people like running around me, and they're all dressed as if they're running a marathon, and then they look forward again, and all of a sudden there's a finish line in front of them, and then they walk across the finish line with everyone else, and they get celebrated as if they ran the marathon too.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I see as a prank. Like, that's really this like wholehearted, like really silly thing, and then they kind of like, these people are reacting with like, what is going on, but also like, haha, this is really funny. I'm like, oh no, I didn't run the marathon, but like, congratulations to you. Like,
right.
And it's like positive, like everyone's laughing and it's funny. It's not, oh, I called the mall and told them that there's gonna be something that's gonna explode at this time and I'm gonna freak everyone out or whatever. Like, I don't know. I've seen some crazy ones like more recently, and I'm just like, that's not funny. Like, that's not even kind of funny. That's just terrifying people, and that's just putting people in a state of frenzy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, or I remember ones where like there'll be like they like these just like the horrible morbid things, and I'm just like, you can't, why would you do that? But again, they're so conditioned to, I need to make it the craziest, like, at what point is the bar too high, or I guess at what point is the bar too low, for the views, for the clicks. And it's like, oh, that's horrible.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think those are pranks. I think that's just a sickened way to scare people. But it's like you were saying, at what cost? Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's just, it's not, that's not a prank to me. A prank to me is joking with someone and saying you won a marathon when they very much did not,
Right.
And it's, I hope whoever's watching knows exactly the kind of videos I'm talking about. Like, they were just these like really silly clips. I distinctly remember they were always filmed in New York because it was always in Central Park. But they would just do these like elaborate silly things of like putting people in very funny, awkward situations. But it was just like, no harm, no foul. Like, it was very obviously something really, really funny, and there's no fear, like, in that sense. I don't know if that makes sense. Did I make sense?
Yeah. It does make sense.
What about you? What do you have a definition for a prank, or do you have an example of what you think?
Yeah. Of course I do. When I think of a prank,
Mm-hmm.
I usually just think of jokes that you're saying or doing with those that you are close with, so your friends or your family.
Okay.
That's where it usually starts off anyways,
Yeah.
because
Who do you hang out with?
You're always around the people that you love, so your family, and then your close friends.
Mm-hmm.
And so since you're always around them so much, what are some ways that I can get in their head, or some ways that I can crack a
mess
joke
with them. Yeah.
right? And so I think a prank would start off with your friends and family.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you were to branch out and do that to random strangers,
Mm-hmm.
that's where it gets a very thin line
Mm.
where you cannot cross. And so what I think a prank is anything that involves laughter
Mm-hmm.
without any type of violence being done.
Yeah. No physical harm.
Right. Because what a prank is supposed to invoke laughter.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And I know some people, they like to think of pranks as, what can I do that is funny, but at the cost of someone's pain or misery. And that's no longer being pranked. That's being a nuisance.
You're being a bully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, I know this world has devolved into that type of humor and entertainment.
Yeah.
But
unfortunately,
it's gonna get you into a bunch of mess.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like I said earlier, you have a bunch of cons,
Right.
and you have such little pros, and at some point it's gonna catch up to you.
Yeah.
And like in this case, they lost a life because they wanted to pull a prank.
Which is like the worst type of like, that's not even a consequence. That's just That's a loss. Exactly
Mhm.
what you said. It's so sad.
And so, like an example of a prank that I was thinking of, even if you were to pull it on someone that um, is a stranger,
Mm-hmm.
since you're not physically touching them or getting things thrown at them, any type of violence happening, um, there is a YouTubers that
Mm-hmm.
are twins or triplets, and they would go up to somebody, talk to them, and then they would end their conversation, walk away. And as that person that they just interacted with walks away, the second or third person comes up.
Oh, they're
to
twin
the-
or they're triplet.
Right. And they meet again, and they're just like, what just happened? Did I not see you go that
I
way?
thought you just
Right. And so they're confused, but there's no harm in it,
Mhm.
because it's like, am I playing games, in your mind,
Right.
or
Right.
am I, just tripping out?
Mm-hmm.
But that's what I think of something being an example of a prank with someone that's a stranger.
Yeah.
But we know
Mm-hmm.
that those types of entertainment is not as funny, or
In
as
comparison to.
as well, not as funny or as well liked
Mm-hmm.
to those that cause other people pain and misery.
Right. All right.
So it's sad, but I mean, you're literally just filming yourself committing crime.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so, like, I would see like YouTube reels of like an interview going on, and they're holding like water balloons, or something that they'll throw at a random person. They'll throw it, turn around real quickly, act like they're doing their interview, and then the person gets hit, and then they're just like, did you do that? Did you do that?
Yeah.
And they're just like, no, what are you talking about? And people actually like that type of content.
Yeah.
And it's like, you just filmed yourself assaulting someone with a water balloon or whatever item you threw at them.
Right. Right.
And it's like, that person can literally take you to court and win that case
Yeah.
if they were to get that evidence.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so, I don't know, people, they just have a wrong way of thinking.
Yeah, and I like that point too, because I was thinking about how you were saying that, like, oh, it can get it they're looking for the reaction, right? But the
Mhm.
thing is it's how you frame the reaction. So let's say a innocent passerby receives whatever end of this prank, whether it's water balloons or they get scared because some type of situation that is being made up or whatever, and immediately, and I was speaking in like YouTube videos, but it's like you see this person's reaction of like fear or being upset or being angry, and then immediately it cuts to the creator laughing like, oh my gosh, that's so funny, ha 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 ha. And it's like, okay, but pause and reframe that. If you were that person, would you not feel the same way? Like,
Mhm.
would you not feel your privacy was violated, or like you feel like your personal boundaries were like messed with or whatever it was? And it's like, yeah, you would feel angry and upset, because that's not a nice thing to do. That's not a kind or polite thing to do. And even if it's something as harmless as a water balloon, okay, but then it's also like, well, what if that person was on a way to an interview? Wow, my
Ooh.
HR is coming through so hard. It's kind of like, and this person's in their suit, like,
Right.
I'm thinking like, what's that one movie with that guy who was like, he was down to like nothing, and he was on his way to his last interview, and we walked in, he had like, his shirt was dirty, but it's like, those guys, you don't know people's lives, and then you're gonna try to interrupt or disrupt it
Mhm.
for a laugh. And even then, it's like, is that really a laugh, or are you just like hyper reacting and laughing to the camera so that it looks funny for your viewers? Because if you frame it that way, then maybe your viewers will see it that way. But then if you also frame it as, well, what about from that guy's perspective? This was his last good shirt. He's on the way to an interview, and he didn't have any money to take an Uber because this is his interview to get that job. Then what are you going to do?
Mhm.
Like, that's messed up on so many levels. And it's not right. It really isn't. And I genuinely, this is like, I love YouTube. I've always loved YouTube. I will always love YouTube for all intents and purposes. But this is one of the sides of YouTube that I absolutely despise. I hate that it can garner so much clicks and views, and the algorithm loves it, but it's just like, it's just promoting such like poor and disgusting behavior. Like, it's absolutely disgusting. I see no reason for it, and I don't know, maybe it's just me being a boomer, I don't know, but at the same time, it's like, I know that I wouldn't want that to happen to me, my friends, or family. Like, I wouldn't want to be on the receiving end of that at all, and I don't think that the content is entertaining in any type of way. So I see no use or purpose for it, especially like, and I'm talking specifically for like the extreme stuff, but that's the thing. The extreme stuff is the stuff that gets millions of views.
Exactly.
And it's like I said, it's like, how low is low? You know, is there a bar anymore? Or are we just going to keep going low until something horribly tragic happens, like a young person passes away? Like, that's not okay. And it's not wholly the homeowner's fault. And I don't want to blame the kid either, but it's also just like, this is the consequence of it. This is the consequences of your action. I'm not saying that it's 100% the teenager's fault. I'm not. That's a horrible thing to happen. But it's also just like, to what end? The cons severely outweigh any pros.
And so, what do you guys think is a prank? What constitutes it being a good prank, and what constitutes it being a bad prank? Do you guys remember pranking with a whoopee cushion?
Those are so funny as a kid.
I can't tell you how much laughter I get from a person farting.
Just a little toot toot.
Just whether it be real or fake, you can make it with your mouth, with your butt, with a whoopee cushion. It's all funny.
It really is. I'm pretty sure as a kid we used to get ours from the Dollar Tree. I never successfully did it because everyone would always see it before they sat down. But it was that is a good one. That is a good prank. But for sure, let us know in the comments down below your thoughts. And we hope you really enjoyed this episode. Please continue to like and subscribe, and we will see y'all next time. Thanks. Bye.